if you were watching your very first debate last night, you could have come away with the impression that none of these candidates for president had ever worked in politics before. And why do you think that is? Check out this recent CNN poll showing more than 68% of the respondents feel the folks in Washington do not represent their interests well. Only 30% seemed happy with their elected officials. And now listen to some of what we heard from the folks on stage last night.
I am leaving the Senate, I'm not running for re-election, and I'm running for president because I know this. Unless we have the right president, we cannot make America fulfill its potential. But with the right person in office, the 21st century can be the greatest era that our nation has ever known.
Good evening, everyone. I'm an eye surgeon from Bowling Green, Kentucky. My wife, Kelly, and I have been married for nearly 25 years, and I spend my days defending the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. I think there's nothing more important than understanding that the Constitution restrains government, not the people.
Let me tell you this, Jay. I am a Republican in New Jersey. I wake up every morning as an outsider. I wake up every morning with a Democratic legislature who's trying to beat my head in and fight me because I'm trying to bring conservative change to a state that needed it desperately.
I'll tell you why people are supporting outsiders. It's because you know what happens if someone's been in a system their whole life? They don't know how broken the system is. A fish swims in water. It doesn't know it's water. It's not that politicians are bad people. It's that they've been in that system forever.
All right. So was anybody buying that? I'm just an eye surgeon from Kentucky. But you're also a U.S. senator. In the back. Go ahead. Jordan.
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, they all have had to have some sort of experience to be able to get where they are right now. I grew up in New York and New Jersey, so Chris Christie is someone very familiar with us. I would never believe that he's someone who's an outsider as well. And I don't think that's going to capture me, that story. What's going to capture me is just their qualifications as well. Carly Fiorina, I never heard of, but when she spoke about the Iran deal and repairing relationships with Benjamin Netanyahu, that's what struck out to me.
Like
that was something very close and personal to me.
Raise your hand if you are one of the 2/3 of Republican voters who believes it is important to find somebody on the outside of Washington who doesn't really want establishment. You, sir, in the back. Emery, why don't you want somebody from government?
People are tired right now of what's going on in Washington, D.C. We've been betrayed in the last two elections. The last two elections, they promised to do something, and they didn't carry it through.
What specifically?
Well, first of all, they didn't repeal Obamacare.
But they tried.
Yeah, they act like they tried, but deep down inside, we know that the games were played.
So what do you think? I mean, so who do you like? You like Fiorina, Trump,
well, I haven't
Carson,
really made
who?
up my whole mind yet, but I really liked the way she handled herself last night on the show, on the debate, because she gave very substantive answers, and they sound like they were coming truly from her heart, and also from a knowledge that she knew exactly what she was talking about.
What about Trump, though? Because Trump, I mean, he's as outside as you can get, sort of. I mean, he says, look, I don't play by their rules. I'm going to do it my way. I win. It's what I do. You're going to get sick of winning when I actually, take over. Go ahead, Yev.
I think we're obsessing a little bit too much about whether someone's an outsider or not. Ultimately, good policy is good policy. It can come from an outsider, from an insider. Trump so far hasn't elucidated any serious policy proposals. He's claiming that he's going to have this tax overhaul coming out in the next 2 weeks. I don't know what it's going to look like, but I can see good policy coming from Jeb, coming from Trump, Fiorina, any of them. It's really about the underlying policies.
But aren't people worried? People are worried that once they get to Washington, they're going to bend to Washington instead of making Washington bend to them. Yes, go ahead, Donna.
There's a concern with Trump. He had spoken last night about obviously Russia being in Syria, and he is going to handle that.
He's going to talk to Putin.
He's going to talk to Putin. He's going to handle Assad. How? He doesn't even have a foreign policy team. So these outsiders are such a concern. And what's happening, I'm afraid, is that these qualified politicians, senators, governors, are being completely dismissed. Nobody's paying much attention to them. They're seasoned. And there are some good candidates like Rubio and Cruz that are really being disregarded because of people like Trump. He can't outline his plan.
Well, go ahead, Gary.
See, Donald Trump was very successful when he ran the Trump Organization. He was able to do whatever he wanted. If he becomes president, he has to deal with a Congress. So it's not so easy as Trump just walking in and say, okay, I'm going to bomb Syria. It doesn't work like that. I was a supporter of Trump, and after last night, I was very disappointed in his performance, his lack of dignity of the office of president even. And I think he's going to have to really rethink his whole policy. He just can't go in there like a bull in a china shop.
John in the front, go ahead.
Well, I think the being an outsider is sort of the flavor of the month. I think we're going to see that change. I think that Donald Trump has done a lot to bring that flavor of the month to the fore. I look back, and maybe I'm older than some of the other folks in the room, but in my lifetime, I don't think I've seen a president who has been a true outsider. And I think you're going to see the candidates with more experience come to the front, whether it's a Jeb Bush or a Marco Rubio. And I will tell you, I was very impressed with Marco Rubio last night.
Why?
I think he had a tremendous command of foreign policy.
Some people think he's too young. Yes, go ahead.
I want to challenge the idea that we haven't had an outsider before. Our president that sits in the office right now was an outsider. Very few people had heard of him. He'd been in the Senate for only a few months before he decided he was ready to be president. And the problems and difficulties that America experiences right now, I think largely come because he really wasn't prepared for the job. So when I watched the debate, what I was interested in seeing is what specifically are your policies. Give me your website so I can go and look on it. You know, Fiorina's done this, Walker's done this with an actual bill that he's going to introduce on the first day and send up to Capitol Hill for the repeal. I haven't seen this from Donald Trump. I want to see this, but bombastic, I don't have a problem with it. Shaking things up, I have no problem with it, but I don't want someone who doesn't know what they're doing, hasn't had any experience proving that they know what they're doing, and then let's just find out what's going to happen.